What's going on, folks? Hope you're doing good. I'm excited because today I'm going to share one of my favorite poems of all time. I totally love this poem. I've been getting back into reading poetry more and more recently. I'm a songwriter. I write in verse, and I've written my fair share of poetry, and that's actually what my degree is in poetry. Shakespearean literature, focus on contemporary Irish poetry, and this is my favorite Irish author. His name is Seamus Heaney, just an incredible writer. So I'm going to read this poem called "The Skylight," and what we're going to do is we're going to break down what he's doing with the language a little bit. We're going to break down the use of images and just what he does in these two brief paragraphs. And really, what's got me back into reading poetry and even writing a little bit of poetry and just making sure that it's a part of my discipline as a developing author is that I've been writing novels. And you may say, like, okay, if you're a novel writer, why are you worried about poems? That's a good question. But reading some of the greats and reading poetry is just a different practice. And I think that it's like it's a way to get these nutrients that are kind of hard to get and to ingest them and get them into your writing and get it into your personality as a writer. Poetry plays with themes, and poetry plays with images, and poetry plays with the rhythm and the feel of the line. And I can read all the books in the world about how to write in a more literary fashion and how to write with good rhythm and good meter and all that stuff. But honestly, there's no better way to practice than to just read poetry consistently. And so honestly, I'm excited about doing this because I'm trying to grow. That really is what it is. And as a byproduct of just trying to read and trying to grow, you're really reading some of the most beautiful stuff that's ever been written. And so you're going to get an appreciation for the art. You're going to get more of an appreciation for whatever you do with language as a creator. So this is worth it. It's worth it to get into this stuff and to just build it into your diet. And so another quick thing, you don't read poems the way that you read just a book. You're going incredibly slow. You're feeling the line. You're reading it out loud. You're digesting it, and you're paying special attention to the emotions that you're feeling, and to the descriptions and the tone of the descriptions. Okay, so that's my preamble. Let's get into it. "The Skylight" by Seamus Heaney. I'm going to read it out for you, and then we're going to dig into it just a little bit. So here we go. You were the one for skylights, I opposed, cutting into the seasoned tongue and groove of pitch pine. I liked it low and closed, its claustrophobic nest up in the roof effect. I liked the snuff-dry feeling, the perfect trunk-lid fit of the old ceiling. Under there, it was all hutch and hatch. The blue slates kept the heat like midnight thatch. But when the slates came off, extravagant sky entered and held surprise wide open. For days, I felt like an inhabitant of that house where the man sick of the palsy was lowered through the roof, had his sins forgiven, was healed, took up his bed, and walked away. That's "The Skylight." Beautiful poem. Beautiful poem. And honestly, if I could have read it in an Irish accent, it would have worked better. He's actually got like a diagram where he's really playing with the feel of the words and the internal rhymes all throughout the lines, and that the way he phrases actually does matter. It definitely matters to him. And so I've done the best that I can with it, and I think that even though I'm missing a lot, because I'm just, good old American, just, speaking with my Atlanta accent, even though I've lost a lot, there's so much that's still there. So we're going to focus on what we can pull out of this. Number one, internal rhyme. You don't have to rhyme at the end of the line only. That's like fairy tale type rhyming, where it's just very overt and it really just jumps out. It's not nuanced in any way, shape, or form. But he's got a lot of these internal rhymes, and so if you want to pause and kind of look for those and feel those out, you'll notice them jumping out to you. Rhymes all throughout the lines. Okay, and you can play with that too. Sometimes a section may call for like a subtle rhyme, and you can even use consonance or assonance. Consonance being like matching consonants, and so that rhyme is not as powerful, but it's present. And then because the sounds still do connect, even though they're less overt. And then assonance, which is just a rhyme of the vowel sounds. And I'm just going to tell you, as a songwriter, that opened up everything for me, because the vowel sound is what is the loudest. It's what lingers the longest. And so when the vowels rhyme, the rest of the word doesn't have to. And then you're sounding less like a fairy tale. You're sounding less sing-songy. And it's a little more literary, because you're getting this feel, but it's not so overt that it slaps you in the face. A very exact rhyme. Exact rhymes, I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not the biggest fan. Sometimes a moment might call for them, but you can be a little more subtle with it, okay? So that's a quick note. The meter of the line, the flow is beautiful. The alternating, stresses in the syllables, and you can try to pick that out, exactly what the meter is. Pick out the words that really have the most stress. And I heard a trick that if you try to like yell the line to yourself, like you were yelling it to someone, you would really feel the stresses more, because you're bringing the intensity and the volume up. So that's a great way that you can pick those out. These are all technical notes, but this is the biggest part of this poem to me. And I think this poem thrives off of two images, okay? He's got, honestly, he's describing his writing space, right? And listen to me here. If you're a writer, it's cramped and it's closed and it's dry. And it's stuffy, and that's good because it's what he's familiar with, and that's his focused, intense. I'm going to write, and it's totally dark. I'm going to do sensory deprivation. I'm just going to sit down and write this thing. That's his feel at the time. That's like his creative space, and he thinks that's the only way he can create is by locking in like that. Maybe you're like this a little bit, and there's definitely something to be said for getting in the zone and having your own comfortable space, but he's playing with this because that's his space. It's literally a building with a house with an attic with a low roof, where he's crunched in there in the dark and in the heat. And you get all these beautiful, interesting ways for him to describe this. Claustrophobic, nest up in the roof effect. I love that. Snuff dry, perfect trunk lid fit of the old ceiling. Hutch and hatch, and the blue slates keep the heat. Like midnight thatch, this dry imagery, the snuff dry, the thatch dry, and he talks about how locked in it is. He's the tongue and groove, pitch pine, low closed. It's every single line is just like selling this feeling, and you see how nuanced it is, because it's cramped, but it's familiar, and it's dry and warm and toasty, but it's closed off, right? So you're getting this nuance of the good and the bad in this image. Okay, then we move on, and as story has it, he was very protective of this space, and his wife wanted a skylight, and one day when he came back from a trip, she just cut one into the house. So he comes in, and this is sort of like a life-altering thing for him, because he is a poet, and he's a serious poet. And so when he sits down, now all of a sudden there's this skylight, and he's worried, like, have I lost my center for creativity? Have I lost my process? He's nervous. He could lose everything in this moment. And you probably, if you're a writer, you kind of know how this feels when your groove gets totally disrupted, or your space, something happens with your space and you can't connect. Okay, so let's read the second half of this and look at this image. The slates come off. There's extravagant sky, and it's entering, and it's surprising. And then he leaves off with this image, so it's open, it's bright all of a sudden. And then you get, and it's the sky intruding, like this again, openness. And then he leaves with this image: for days I felt like an inhabitant of the house where the man sick of palsy was lowered through the roof, had his sins forgiven, was healed, took up his bed and walked away. This is one of those things in poetry where you don't have to know exactly what it means, but he's talking about a healing. He's talking about a miracle of Jesus, where the friends of a man who was paralyzed carried him to Jesus, could not get in the house, and so they were so desperate they ripped a hole in the roof and lowered the man in, and Jesus heals this man. So in this wild miracle that he's describing, the man is paralyzed, he's sick, and his friends lower him through the roof, like his wife is the one who opened up the roof. But what happens is the man's sins are forgiven. not just he's healed, sins are forgiven, and then he walks away a new man, a healed man, a restored man, right? And so that's the image he leaves us with. Man, it takes a huge, it opens up, but then it takes this huge positive spin, and he gets this effect where he's not only still creative, he's not only is the space still workable for him, not only is it brighter, but his sins are forgiven, and he's physically healed. And I just think that's such a cool image. I mean, the way it jumps out to me is if you're a writer and you're just so gripping so hard and you're so cramped and you're so squeezed by trying to create and trying to muster creativity, and then the roof opens up, right? And the inspiration floods in, and it just opens your soul, and you breathe in fresh air, and oh gosh, it feels like healing. It's such a cool thing. And I know you can take this image and play with it and apply it to your own life in so many different ways, but it doesn't really do anything but create one image and then the next image and hold them up together, so you can and then you as the reader can chew on it and drag out these themes. So there's a thematic piece to this poem that I think is the strongest piece for me, at least. So that's all I'm going to take away from this. But maybe the next time you were trying to write, hammer out one image, and then for all it is, for the good, for the bad, because I understand why he felt stuck. So hammer that out. A complex image. Take your time. Your reader will get it. And then reverse it. Show another image. And what happens? What happens there? What does the reversal look like? What does it feel like? And he just switches from... Notice the second image, he isn't just describing the whole time. He switches to a picture of a story that's full of all this meaning and just transfers it that way. So beautiful. So play around with imagery, play around with just chewing on the lines and just really thinking about what they mean and thinking about how they feel and thinking about the tone that is created. Okay? So that's what I'm taking away from this one. Hopefully this was helpful to you. Again, I would encourage you, read one poem a night. Let's try to read one poem a night and take your time and really savor it. Don't try to rush past it, because you're trying to get a specific nutrient from that process, and you want to get it into your writing, and it'll make you better. So I hope you have an awesome day. Hey, God bless you.